Here come the littles, always running to and fro. Here come the littles, they're living with you, don't you know? One day when Henry went away, the little fell inside his suitcase. He later found his pathways. When he opened his luggage and the littles jumped out, they've been the best friends ever since. He's left his secret their existence. Inside the walls they've always been. You can't stop the littles 'cause the littles don't stop.
Alright, welcome everybody to Back in Tunes, the little special edition. I am Michael, your host.
I'm Ron Millington.
He's my guest for the week. We're basically, if you have never seen Back in Tunes, that'd be kind of hard to do if it's a podcast. Sorry, I just woke up. If you have not listened to Back in Tunes, basically what we do is we watch the first episode of the cartoon. There is a link on YouTube. You can find the first episode. It's called Beware the Hunter. And we basically just chit-chat about the series as the episode is playing. So if you want to find it right now, go ahead and pause this, and we'll begin. Alright, so for me, I remember watching this, but I don't think I watched it a ton. I think I was more like towards the action-oriented stuff. I know my sister watched this a lot, but I almost have complete amnesia to this whole story.
Well, for the most part, I'm the same way, but I watched a lot of cartoons growing up, so I had a lot of time.
Did you watch more like these family-oriented ones? I don't know if I want to call it family-oriented, but you know how the cartoons kind of split themselves up? There's usually like the girl ones where it's like Strawberry Shortcake, Rainbow Bright.
Right.
Then there was like the guys, G.I. Joe, Transformers. But then there was that middle ground where boys and girls and maybe even parents could watch it. It was like the Littles, Shirt Tails. Maybe.
Watched a lot of those.
What's that?
Shirt Tails, watched those a lot.
Yeah, I would say probably Care Bears is a little more family-oriented, where it can be on both sides.
Right.
Did you watch like everything, or were you like more? I was more like the guy cartoons.
I watched a little bit of everything. I did watch a lot of the guy cartoons, but with two sisters in the house, you tend to watch other stuff too. So.
Yeah. I do remember specifically watching a lot of She-Ra, but other than that, I don't recall watching. I think me and my sister would just go in other directions for our cartoons.
I know She-Ra is meant to be more girl-oriented, but I guarantee more guys watch that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's direct link to He-Man helps.
Right.
Wow. I never noticed anybody ever use a VCR in a cartoon before, or video games. This is weird. The animation is quite good. It is obviously made over in Japan because of like you can usually tell like the shadowy effects and the colors. They just had a very specific way of doing it. But there's something also. It seems slightly like it has a European influence in its design, like the character design.
See, I was wondering that in the audio, there's a lot of rushed lines that you get a lot of with the dubbed cartoons.
Yeah. In fact, I think this is actually from. There's like a German-Dutch company that had some sort of hand in developing this. It was post-produced by a Canadian company. Oh, here it is. It goes French-American Canadian company. Oh, I didn't realize Deke. Do you remember seeing Deke Entertainment?
Yep.
So it's hard to say that.
A lot of the stuff we watched.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did Inspector Gadget.
I think you're right.
And you know what? The look is kind of similar to Inspector Gadget. Let me look that up.
I remember Dinky being my favorite.
Yeah, to me,
Complete Nimrod.
I remember the look of this, but I don't remember anything about the plot. Oh, I remember they did Heathcliff as well.
Sweet.
Do you remember that cartoon?
Oh, definitely.
Nobody talks about Heathcliff anymore. I remember during the 80s, Heathcliff and Garfield were pretty neck and neck in popularity. Then just Garfield completely took over.
Right.
Alright, so yeah, it's based on a series of books by John Peterson. There was a couple dozen by him, and then he licensed out the rights to the show. And then after the show took off, there were a bunch of other adaptations, but more connected to like the cartoons. So like the writing staff of the cartoon would do some of the books.
Huh.
The show, it says it was on for 3 seasons and 29 episodes, which seems like a really low amount of episodes.
Just surprised. Well, yeah, for 3 seasons, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Because we just did a commentary track for Peter Pan and the Pirates. That was only on for 1 year, but they did 65 episodes. It's funny the difference between what aired during the weekday, like after school, and then what aired on Saturday. Saturday shows always seem like a much lower amount.
Right.
And I remember there was a movie called Here Come the Littles, like that took place after. Well, it took place before the first episode, but it was released after the series was over with.
Yes. I believe there are 2 movies that came out of this. So I was reading all that earlier.
Oh, yeah, I've only ever seen the cartoon. It was called, I think it was actually a special. I'm not sure if it was a full-on movie. It's called Liberty and the Littles. Oh, you know what? I remember now. Do you remember, ABC Storybook Special? It would always air on Saturdays with O.G. Reed Moore as the host.
Yes, loved him.
Liberty and the Littles was one of those movies.
Isn't that where we saw Bungie for the first time?
Yeah, Bungie!
Yes.
Which also, I believe, is the voice of Glomer from Punky Brewster. Hey, Punky!
Yes.
You know what the weird thing is? They would call them movies. They would split them up in like 3 short episodes. I don't know if their intention was to release it internationally as one movie, but yeah, Liberty and the Littles was 3 half-hour episodes, like completely linked. I guess technically that's a movie, but it's more like a mini-series.
Wonder if they did that on purpose to stretch it out, or that's just the only way they could get it on the air.
Yeah, like they made it as a movie, but it didn't do very well, and they decided instead just to cut it up. I remember they did that with something else. I want to say they did it with the G.I. Joe movie. Because I don't think that was in theaters. I think they cut it up and aired it on TV and then later released it on video.
That's one thing I don't remember watching.
G.I. Joe?
Oh, I love watching G.I. Joe. I don't remember the movie, though.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. I don't remember it being very good. There's a lot of those kind of movies in the 80s. Like these smaller companies were releasing animated versions or movies of all these animated cartoons. I remember there was a Care Bears, Transformers, Brave Star. I want to say there was the She-Ra Secret of the Sword movie.
But that was the one where they crossed over with He-Man, right?
Right.
Right.
The funny thing, the Littles made like $7 million, and I think it was released by Atlantic Releasing, but I don't remember it all when I was a kid. But back then, they didn't have the same kind of promotion. Whenever a movie comes out in theaters, it seems like everybody knows that it's coming out. And for some reason, back then, they just didn't have the same kind of money.
Did they release it close to it? Or was it, how long after was it released?
The Here Come the Littles movie?
Yeah.
It was immediately after the 3rd season ended. It was during that summer. So I was looking up the cast, and of course there's a lot of obvious names like Frank Welker. He did tons of voices for cartoons. But, he did Galvatron and Megatron. He did Jabberjaw and stuff like that. Probably one of the most famous voice work guys from that era. But there was one I found interesting. Let me see if I can find it again. Oh, where is it? Alvy Moore. I believe he played Grandpa.
Yes.
He was born in Vincennes.
Was he?
Yeah. The listener may not understand why we find that significant, but me and Ron went to college in Vincennes, Indiana, and I think the only famous person they ever talked about was Red Skelton. Am I correct?
Red Skelton. That's right.
Though, who is it again? Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville. He was born and raised right outside of Vincennes.
Really?
Yep.
Like in Indiana?
Yeah, and not on the Illinois side. He was, I'd have to look it up, but he was born right outside there. Remember, oh wait, you had already graduated. I stayed an extra semester. But when Urban Legend had come out, and he was on the poster and everything, and they made a big deal about it, and they would say, like, from Hometown's Own, Michael Rosenbaum.
I didn't realize he was in that.
Yeah, that's his first like significant thing. I think he had just done a couple small bit parts before that, but that was the one that kind of broke out for him. And then he did, I want to say he did Sorority Boys, and then he did Smallville.
I say Smallville's when I first met it, or not met him, but
Well, this is completely off the subject matter, but yeah, if you ever get the chance to see him live, he kills. He totally will steal the show.
who will?
Michael
Rosenbaum?
Rosenbaum. Yeah, I went to Comic-Con, and there are some big names there, but it didn't matter. He stole the entire convention. His performance is like little one-man show. I don't even want to, what do you call it? Where it's like a Q&A session, and he just absolutely just killed it.
Cool.
He didn't let ego get in the way, whereas with Bruce Campbell, it kind of, he's coasting
Yeah.
now.
Here's Jimmy Keegan.
Yeah,
That's
did
the
you...
voice of Henry Big. He's a drummer for Santana. Was a drummer for Santana.
That's what I was just looking up, too, and then John Waits. But he was in a very, like, underground cult band called Spock's Beard.
Yeah. I've heard very little snippets about that band, but I don't know much about them.
Yeah, I remember, like, when we were in college that they were kind of going around. Like, they were a Mystery Science Theater. Like, people who love Mystery Science Theater love Spock's Beard. It was that kind of thing, that kind of group. Very devoted cult following, but nothing that, like, is household name whatsoever.
Right. That's a name that I've heard, and maybe that's how I heard it. I don't know, but Jimmy Keegan just rolls off the tongue like I've heard it before.
Well, I'm sure he did other voice work. I can look it up.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many actual child actors they had do voice work. Because, you know, most of these cartoons, they just get someone who has a kid's voice.
Right.
What was it?
Bart Simpson's done by a girl.
Yeah, like Rugrats, you know, that was
Yeah.
done by a girl. But these are actually kids that are doing the voice.
I was watching a movie the other night on Netflix called I Know That Voice.
Is it about
If you haven't
cartoons?
seen it. No, yes and no. They do voiceovers, so I guess mostly cartoons. Really interesting watch.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up because I didn't know that was... I haven't been on Netflix in a while, though. I've been Huluing it up like a fiend. Catch up on all my
Right.
South Park.
Well, we gave up on Hulu and went over to Netflix, so we're the other way around.
I'm tired of... The only thing that annoys me about it is that you have to pay and you still got to sit through commercials.
Yeah, I hate that. And it's like every 30 seconds. You get more commercial time than you do airtime.
So I think it's funny, that thing that he had in his hand, I don't know why, the minute I saw it, I started thinking about Ghostbusters.
The little vacuum thing.
Yeah, the detector. Did you ever read or see The Borrowers?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to come up with earlier. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, this is like similar in its style. I mean, it's not a direct ripoff by any means, but
Right.
it just kind of like that same concept.
I've read and seen both, and I always wondered if this was based off of that, but apparently there were books.
You know, with 80s nostalgia going around like crazy, I can't imagine that someone hasn't tried to pitch this as a movie, but it's going to be hard to take them seriously if they got those little teeth. It'll come off like a Saturday Night Live skit. What's easier to buy in a cartoon is hard to buy as live action.
Right. Well, they could probably Hollywood it up. Take their own spin on it, but
So Dinky Little, the guy who does Dinky Little, he's been on CSI for like the last 15 years.
yes, I was reading that this morning.
I didn't realize he did so much voice work. He's also a musician. That's weird. 2 people out of this already no, 3 people out of this are musicians, right in a row. Bettina Bush is also a singer.
Donovan Freeberg.
I
I wonder.
Yeah, well, I think he's the son of Stan Freeberg.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Yeah. Yep. He is. Yeah, his father. Yep.
Ah, my phone is acting up. I hate it when you go to click on something and it just goes completely crazy. And you're like, no, stop doing that. I want to look at something else.
We've got another guest here. My son's awake.
Ah. Have you been watching this show with him?
Yes.
It's definitely the kind of show you could hand down to the next generation after that.
Definitely.
Some of the cartoons, though, I watch now, and I'm in pain. I watch it going, what was I thinking? Was I a dumb child?
That's kind of what I was thinking. I made that comment the other day about Knight Rider. I'm like, now I can still watch shows like The Dukes of Hazzard, what have you, and it's still just as cheesy, but I can still watch it. But Knight Rider seemed just something about the Hoth I just can't handle anymore.
Well, you know, the thing that I noticed about Knight Rider now, and I never noticed as a kid, is a lot of that first season, they didn't really focus on the car that much. It was more like just and there was a lot of shows like this back then where it was like a generic detective cop story, and they just happened to throw in some sort of gimmick.
Right.
As much as I love watching Automan, same gimmick. Manimal's garbage, but you love the transformation scenes, but it's like, they just seem like scripts that were left over. You know, from some other cop show. This wasn't good enough for Chip, so let's just do it as a Manimal episode.
They canceled the show before they could air my story, so we'll give it to these guys.
Some of the cartoons. This one still holds up pretty well, I think, style-wise and story-wise. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna like watch a ton of these episodes later. Some of the shows that I've discovered, like while doing this show, I'm impressed by. I kind of moved on from cartoons in the mid '90s. I think all I was doing was watching like whatever Warner Brothers was putting out because they had the best.
Right.
Like the best storylines and best characters and great animation.
Right.
But like we did the Mega Man episode, and I had never seen a Mega Man episode, and I really enjoyed it. Same thing with Peter Pan and the Pirates. So a lot of these shows I've never experienced before, but I'm definitely going to catch episodes later.
Sad. 29 episodes, and I can get it on the YouTube for the big TV, so my son will have fun with that.
Yeah, and if YouTube isn't your thing, Mill Creek Entertainment did release a complete series with both movies. You can find it probably pretty cheap. Mill Creek isn't like a company that charges a ton of money.
Oh, I saw it. Was it the? Maybe I'm seeing things. Was it the complete unedited series?
I find it strange they say the complete unedited series as if they're like controversial things they had to cut out.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm looking at 2 versions of this on Amazon, I think it was, and both of them said 29 episodes, so I'm wondering what was missing.
Well, no, I think it's the movies that were missing from the original release. I think Mill Creek is the one that added the 2. There might have been music changes, I don't know.
Here we go. There's a 3-disc version and a 5-disc version, and the only price I see is new for the 5-disc, $400.
What? That can't be right.
That's got to be a typo.
I don't see anybody but paying $400 for the littles. Even like the most hardcore fan.
But anyway, I click on the 3-disc set, and it says, yes, on the case, 29 episodes plus 2 feature films.
So it's the same exact set, just different companies. Like the other one probably just lost the license and someone else picked it up.
Right.
That happens a lot with cartoons, actually.
$12.
What's that?
$12 on Amazon.
Not a bad deal.
Nope.
You know, a lot of these cartoons have been repackaged because whoever had the rights went out of business. Like Deke, of course, went out of business, so a lot of their stuff's floating around. The company Filmation, their entire catalog, which is like He-Man, Brave Star, She-Ra, the original Ghostbusters, not the real Ghostbusters. You know, those are all like really dirt cheap collector's packs you can get from like Mill Creek or Echo Bridge, I can't remember. But at least they're available to kids. A lot of these cartoons that I've been trying to find, I cannot. I mean, not even like a bootleg episode on YouTube, like the Back to the Future cartoon. I can't find anything.
I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, and that was a really great one if I remember right. I mean, I'd have to watch it again, but there's a lot of stuff we want to do commentaries on, but we can't find episodes of. I mean, we found Teen Wolf, which we're going to do for the Halloween special.
Right.
But there's some stuff I can't even remember. There was one that I really wanted to watch. It was called Wolfman Jack. It was only 13 episodes, but I remember it being pretty cool. But and I think that was also from Deke, but you can't find it. It's as if it doesn't even exist. All there is one picture, and that's it.
Wolfman Jack, isn't he a DJ?
Yeah, but he was on the Happy Days cartoon, which was on for a couple years, and they decided to give him his own spin-off.
Sweet.
And there was one called Spaghetti and Meatballs, or Meatballs and Spaghetti, is about a rock band, and I can't find anything about that either. But it is nice. What's that? Yeah, hopefully, but there's also not much of an audience for these shows that only lasted 13 episodes. Littles, of course, has a pretty good cult following. It was on for 3 years. It had a couple movies. That is something that studios can see repackaging and putting out on DVD. But some of these cartoons, I don't think anybody has any interest whatsoever, which is a bummer.
So if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have Automan. There's no way I'd find
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's hard to find too. If you've never seen Automan, that's a hoot. I mean, it definitely has aged, but it's like one of those things. I think it was influenced by Tron. It's a lot of fun. You can watch it with your family. Great effects, great characters.
Funny looking back on it. When you sent me that, I watched it. I'm like, 13 episodes, really? Because I could have sworn as a kid there were a million of them.
Yeah, because back then you could watch the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
And I wonder if that's some of the reasoning behind why The Littles and other cartoons that were on for a couple years, there's so few episodes, because you could sit through the same thing over and over, whereas now we tend not to do that.
Right.
It was funny as I was thinking about that, as I was looking up that weekend special, the ABC weekend special that this movie was on. They did a bunch of episodes for the first couple seasons, like 12, 13, but if you look, it was on for like 13 years, but every season it would drop an episode, and by the end they were only doing 3 new episodes a season, and just rerunning the rest over and over and over.
Wow.
Do you remember, like, which one you say, Bungie?
Bungie!
Do you remember the Secret World of Og, where they would go underground to find the stuff that was lost under the bed? I remember that one, that was great.
Yes.
Miss Switch, she was the teacher that was a witch.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember any others. I remember O.G. Reedmore himself had a few specials, but other than that, I think there was a couple sequels to Bungie. Oh, there's Bunnicula.
Yeah. Well, that was a book. That was.
Yeah, well, most of the after-school specials are afternoon.
Books.
Wait, I keep saying the name wrong. There was after-school specials, which were aimed like at teenagers. They were like ones dealing with problems that kids would face every day. And then there was the ABC Saturday special, which was mostly based off kids' books.
I'll look those up.
They're really hard to find. I think maybe because different companies would produce them for ABC.
Right.
That's why the rights are kind of all over the place. But you can find. I was just watching Miss Switch the other day, and I think the Secret World of Og is available. I mean, as much as people complain about YouTube, like people stealing movies and like posting them online, which is illegal, I think there is something kind of nice about the stuff that isn't easily available, that stuff that's out of print, hard to find, that people have tried to save and post on YouTube, so at least its audience can still continue and maybe one day get an official release. That I'm completely in favor for.
Right. Just for prosperity's sake. I mean, there's a lot of things out there. What was it? I was looking for something in particular, and it was no longer in. I mean, like they destroyed the originals.
What?
The only way you're going to find it is if somebody happened to have recorded it on VHS.
Holy moly, what was this?
I can't remember what it was. I'll have to look that up, think on that a little bit. But
That's terrible. Why would you destroy the originals? I know they did that with a lot of the early Doctor Who's. Do you know that they almost erased the masters for Monty Python?
oh no.
Yeah, back then the BBC, they had limited funds, so they would reuse the tapes. So like the first dozen seasons of Doctor Who is kind of spotty because the BBC would just reuse the tapes. They would erase the masters and just use them again.
I was wondering about that. I've been catching up on my latest Doctor Who lately, and I've been wondering about the earlier Doctors, if anything was out there.
Yeah, some people have found old recorded, like their own personal recorded, or they have found like the original masters were somehow saved, but for the most part, a lot of those episodes are gone forever.
That's sad.
Nothing, no matter what it is, no matter how much you like it or hate it, it should ever be lost. Because someone out there wants to see it again, even if it's terrible, they just want to know.
Right.
Like, we watched a terrible cartoon. There's one episode of Back in Toons that is completely lost. I don't know if we should do it again, because the cartoon's so bad. But do you remember Battletoads?
Yes.
They did one pilot episode of Battletoads, and they released it as part of this like package on USA or something.
Right.
And we watched it, and it was miserably bad, and somehow I lost the recording of it, but it still exists. Someone out there saved it, so therefore you can see it. judge for yourself whether or not it's garbage. Oh wow, there's a lot of Japanese names coming up all of a sudden.
It's definitely an 80s vibe.
Yeah, I like the theme song. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
But Saban was part of the production company, and of course they're known for doing Power Rangers a decade later.
Right.
So I guess that's it for Here Come the Littles, or not Here Come the Littles. That's the movie, The Littles. Yeah, that was the first episode. Beware the Hunter. There's a ton of episodes up on YouTube if you want to see it, but if you just want to catch up, like the whole thing, just grab the package. Like I said, it's pretty cheap for the whole series.
It's called The Littles, the Complete Collection.
All right, so that's it for me. Anything, any last word you want to say about it?
No.
I should.
On the nose, I'm probably going to end up watching the rest of them here. So.
Yeah, it's something the whole family can watch together.
Definitely.
Some of the cartoons back then were obviously like shills for selling toys. This isn't.
Yeah, thankfully.
I just can't believe they got away with that. Some of the cartoons I watch now, and you're like, oh my god, this whole thing is just a really long advertisement. There's no story.
Right.
Why was there a Chuck Norris in the Karate Commandos cartoon? No reason except for selling toys. Because I don't remember Chuck Norris having a huge kid following. Alright, so that's it for us. I'm Michael signing off.
And Ron, thanks for having me.
Alright, everybody have a good night.
All right, take care.